Good evening. I'm Stan Mark, Vice Chair of Class Act HR 73, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this evening's Toolbox webinar. The presentation will be led by Krish Bhatia and Katie Marinella and is entitled Unlocking Artificial Intelligence. It is my pleasure to introduce Krish Bhatia and Katie Marinella as tonight's presenters. Krish brings deep experience at the intersection of AI and social impact. As founder of Transparent, he's developed an innovative donation platform that empowers nonprofits to increase donor engagement through the use of AI. In addition, his AI credentials include launching and leading AI Pioneer, an educational program that teaches high school students practical AI applications. Krish is currently a student at Babson and has recently studied at the London School of Economics. Katie is a digital communications consultant with expertise in digital strategy, brand messaging, social media, and email marketing. An early adopter of social media marketing, she started KT World Communications in 2018. She advises her clients on how to harness the power of digital media. Class Act HR 73 is one of her clients. Katie is also an adjunct professor of digital and social media at Carroll Community College in Westminster, Maryland, where she teaches her students the practical applications of AI. Katie and Krish, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Stan. So before we get into our presentation, Krish and I wanted to see kind of how we're feeling as a group about AI. So Diane, if you could put in the chat the link to a little word cloud we're going to put together. So if you could put some thoughts and feelings that you're having about AI, and we're going to see how we're feeling as a group. So if you click on the link in the chat, it should take you to where you can express your feelings. And if that's not working for you, you can also use the QR code. Okay, curious and excited or taking an early lead? Yeah, fearful, reticent. Unknown, excited, uncertain, curious. Oh, this is fun. Is it good or is it bad? One more minute. Does it make up articles? All right. Awesome. So yeah, if you haven't been working in AI for decades, then it can kind of feel like it came out of nowhere, and it can be a little daunting, and even scary. So as we go into some of the uses of AI, some of the history, and some of the concerns, I do think it's important to keep in mind that AI is not here to take place of your other tools. So in this toolbox, we have all the other tools that we have talked about in the Bridge Toolbox series, which some of you have been at. AI is not here to replace any of that, but it can help power those tools up and make them more effective and more efficient. So we are going to look at how that can be done. But first of all, let's just say, what is AI? And in a nutshell, it is computer systems that can perform operations that normally require humans, such as creativity, problem solving, and learning. And while it may have felt like it just kind of burst onto the scene, anyone who's watched any sci-fi knows that we have been talking about artificial intelligence for quite some time. So in 1950, Alan Turing first proposed machine learning and invented the Turing test, or the imitation game, which tests whether a machine can answer a question in a way that a human might. In 1955, the term artificial intelligence was actually coined. Then there was a little bit of a lull in the 1970s and 1980s. There wasn't as much innovation happening. There wasn't very much funding happening for AI. Kind of came roaring back in the 90s when the Deep Blue chess computer game won against the chess world champion. So 1997, and then in the early 2010s, probably everybody remembers when Siri and Google Assist, and the other one I can't say out loud because she's sitting right next to me, became part of our lives. And then 2020, OpenAI, which is the group that owns ChatGPT, started to beta test GPT-3, and in 2022, they released ChatGPT to the public. And by January of 2023, it had 100 million users. And so since then, different companies and organizations have begun incorporating either ChatGPT itself or other language learning models into their own platforms and operations. So what can AI do? It can recognize patterns, it can generate language, it can analyze data and make predictions based on that data, and it can automate repetitive tasks and busy work. What it can't do is understand the full human context, make ethical decisions, at least not on its own, replace human relationships, or fact check. So there is a phenomenon somebody mentioned in our word cloud of AI hallucinations. One time somebody had sent me something about a company and I didn't really know what the company did. So I put it into AI and they completely made up an application, like a phone app that just didn't exist. But they made it up with such confidence and detail that if I didn't know that that was wrong, it would have been, you know, bad for for my messaging. So there's as many uses of AI as there are people using AI, but some of the reasons that you should consider using it in your nonprofits, it can be a big time saver and money saver. So for nonprofits that have a limited budget or a limited staff, which is most of them, it can definitely help there. It can spark creativity, help you think about problems in different ways, and help you craft communications that are compelling to your audience. It may give better insight by recognizing patterns such as donation patterns or outcomes from your programs that you don't necessarily see yourself. It can improve equity and access. So if you're serving a population that has language that speak a bunch of different languages, you can translate easier. It can do text to speech for people with sight impairment. So, or it can expand your reach into areas that you may not be able to physically get to. And it can help with storytelling, can respond to your individual users, customize responses and content based on your target audience. So for example, there is a nonprofit called Career Village that worked with other NGOs to create Coach, which is an artificial intelligence chatbot that anyone over 13 can go to and explore career paths. So you wouldn't be able to get a career coach into each neighborhood likely, but this is a way for people who may not have a career coach to get access to that information. And Digital Green, which serves small farmers, developed a farmer.chat, which provides personalized recommendations and resources to farmers in India, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Nigeria. So that, again, areas that might be difficult to get to, and connecting people who have seeds to people who need seeds and that sort of thing. So what are the concerns? Well, first and foremost, there's inaccurate information. So I mentioned AI hallucinations. The Chicago Sun-Times, that you may have seen this, very recently printed a summer reading list, and the books were by real authors, but they were books that do not exist. and they had really exciting, detailed synopses. Some of them I would have liked to read, but they didn't exist, and there wasn't anyone checking it, so they printed it as is. Also in Wyoming, there was a lawsuit, and some lawyers let the AI do their brief for them. And when the judge went to look up the precedents that they'd cited, they didn't exist. So, and then there is the misinformation and disinformation, especially when it comes to images that are generated by AI. They can be as innocuous as this picture that went viral in 2023 of Pope Francis in a puffer jacket. Or obviously, they can be more serious when it comes to fabricating photos of current events or health information or politics, that sort of thing. The environmental impact. So training these models does require large data centers with significant computational power, which results in high energy consumption. And that energy need is actually ongoing because every time a user uses these programs, they kind of retrain themselves based on what's being input. So it is a continuous training process. Those large data centers also need to be cooled down, so use a large amount of water. And then, of course, we are building more computational equipment, which requires minerals that may be either unsustainably or unethically sourced. And just the fact that they're being shipped all over the place can add to those emissions as well. On the other hand, there's the argument that AI can help combat climate change through things like smart energy grids, where they can forecast energy needs and make sure that they're balancing out the renewable energy that's available. Automation systems that optimize heating and lighting and cooling so that we're not using them when we don't need them and we have them when we do need them. AI is working to enhance chip design so that it doesn't use as much energy moving forward, and battery management as well, as with the iPhone's new battery sensor. And also ensuring compliance. So it can take all the data about what's being used where, make sure that you are staying in compliance with laws, reporting properly, and also reducing your carbon output. Privacy concerns. So basically every privacy issue that we've had since the internet began is kind of supercharged by AI, including social media, taking our information without our explicit consent. And AI also trains itself on that information, so it may store information about you and your loved ones, which can lead to security risks like this scam, where you might get a phone call from a loved one saying they're in trouble and they need money. You send the money, and it turns out it's going to a scammer. It's not going to your loved one because they have actually deepfaked that voice. So, and then also bias. So again, all of these systems are trained off of what is input to them. So if you train your recruiting tool to have on resumes that are mostly men's voices, men's names rather, or your grading AI based on essays that have mostly white sounding names, that bias is going to show through. So it is important that there's oversight and balance in training. And then there's the loss of creativity. So I mentioned earlier that you can, AI can definitely help you think about problems differently and give you prompts, even give you the starting point for creative works. But critics will say that the more we rely on it, the less likely we are to be creative ourselves. And as Stan mentioned, I've been doing this for 6, 7 years. As those AI tools have gotten more integrated into the systems that I use for social media management, email management, I've definitely found myself like relying on them more and thinking, oh, I did this for 5 years when there was no AI. Let me make sure that I'm still putting forth the creativity. The other thing is that several AI companies have been accused of stealing copyrighted information to train their systems. And obviously, this causes issues for copyright, but also means that eventually, as these systems get more sophisticated, you may be less likely to hire a graphic artist or a copy editor or a songwriter, etc. Which leads us to job loss. So 41% of companies do plan workforce reductions as artificial intelligence expands, which is obviously causing widespread unease among employees. This is one of many CEOs who estimate that half of all entry-level white-collar jobs could be replaced by AI, which could lead to unemployment of up to 20%. But again, on the other side, it could create jobs. So AI experts are more likely to say that it will create a positive impact on the economy. But pretty much all experts do agree that there will be a job bust before there is a job creation boom. So it's incumbent on us to prepare for that new economy and make sure people are getting the skills that they need and the support that they need for that change. Which all leads into reimagining the workforce. So current estimates say about 53% of knowledge workers' time is spent on busy work, like scheduling meetings, attending meetings, coordinating work between departments. If we do this right, if we get the automation to take over some of that, we could go down to the 4-day work week, which is something that advocates have been talking about for years. I think the key is going to be to utilize AI for that repetitive stuff, that busy work, and not necessarily the creative or the problem solving. And once we get it to a point where people may have more free time, to allow them to use that for leisure and family and not necessarily expect them to put out more work. So with all that said, I do use AI in my daily life. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay. Diana, did me switching work? Or are you still seeing the slides?
Nope, it's working. You're
Okay, good. So if you haven't seen ChatGPT, which is the most common AI platform out there right now, this is what it looks like. I do have a login, so all that means is that I can store my previous conversations with it and go back. I don't have a paid account, so yeah. So it is important when you are working with ChatGPT to make sure your prompts are giving it all the information that it needs in order to give you what you need. So we're going to start with this kind of simple prompt. I just want some social media posts about a nonprofit that brings members of the Harvard Radcliffe class together to achieve change. So let's see what it comes up with. So general awareness post, impact highlight. So you can see like it doesn't really know what it does. So it's giving us, just a general, and we'd have to fill that in. It's gone ahead and made up a quote. So we want to make sure that that is something that Joanna is okay with us using if she didn't actually say it. So it's very kind of vague and is going to require some editing on my end. So if I want to get more specific, I'm going to actually ask it to create a whole campaign for this webinar. And I put in the whole description of Class Act from their website. So actually using the name, and I'm asking for a donor appeal letter, 3 specifically Instagram posts, because they gave me kind of all the social medias before. and a 4-part email campaign. So let's see how that goes. Oh, yes. And I also said I wanted clear, emotionally engaging, and action-oriented language. So kind of giving it a tone and a call to action. So there is the donor letter. I like how they start with talking about the event and then kind of transition into how your donation will support that event. Teasers, why it matters, last call reminder for the social media, and then same thing for email. So, but I didn't give them the names, so we have to make sure that we fill that in, etc. So, and then the thing that it doesn't give us, obviously, is the visuals. So, because I don't have a paid account, I'm not going to use the visual function of ChatGPT, but Canva, which is a graphic design platform I use pretty much every day, does have a Magic Media AI, which is actually powered by ChatGPT. So I'm going to put a prompt in here and see how that goes. So I'm asking it to create an image to promote this webinar. I gave the date and time and a brief description of what Class Act is. I can't do the full description because there's a character limit on this system. So let's see what it comes up with. All right. So I'm just gonna make this big enough. So as you can see, it's not good at text at all. It kind of made up a logo for Class Act. It's giving me different options for the types of images I might want to use, people. So it would be an interesting jumping off point, but I'm probably not going to use, well, I'm definitely not going to use any of these wholesale because some of it is in gibberish. And we do find that that is something that happens with visual AI right now. All right, so these are some of the other kind of prompts that I've used, and women drinking wine with her cat. I guess they got the concept right, but there is just a hand, an arm in the middle of the table there. 3 women on a video call, so I wanted it to look kind of how we're talking right now to promote this event, and this is what they got, which I'm not sure if they're on a video call, but they're certainly not video calling with each other. And this is probably my favorite one. Just had to throw that in there. A couple summers ago, there was an AI app that advertised turning your photos into Muppets. I love the Muppets, so I threw this picture in there, and this is what it came up with. So again, when it comes to creativity, you still kind of need that human touch in order to make it work for you. So where are we with regulation? Well, as always, the EU is a little bit ahead. They have what's called the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. And based on that, President Biden put together a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights. But the current administration has taken an opposite approach. The big, beautiful bill that's making its way through the Senate right now, it's passed the House, has a provision in there that actually bans states from creating new AI regulations. It also bans states from enforcing the regulations that over 30 states and territories have already put in place, focusing on scams, deepfakes, and AI-assisted disinformation. So it is going to become important that your organization decides how AI is going to work for you by creating your policy. So thinking about what tools meet your standards for privacy, transparency, and accountability. So for example, where I teach at the community college, They've asked us to use Microsoft Copilot instead of ChatGPT. It's a very similar system, and sometimes it works even better, but it has more protections for personal data. Thinking through what use cases are acceptable. So are you okay with it, with using it to generate images? Are you okay with using it just as brainstorming? I know one professor who said to her students, okay, you're going to use it, you need to cite it like it's any other source. So thinking through those kinds of regulations and then deciding what education your stakeholders need to understand AI best practices and your policies. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Krish, who is going to go into more detail on tools that you can use in your nonprofit.
Hello, everyone. I'm Krish. There's a lot of people here. That's exciting. Yeah, I hope you're doing good. By the way, Diana's gonna put my contact information in the chat a few times during this. So I'm in Boston now. Feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to meet or chat. I am at my standing desk. I have a picture here. It's an iron board. I just moved, so but yeah, let's get started. Like Katie said, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the applications of AI to your actual nonprofit. Just a little bit about background. I, along with Arian, who's in this call right now, we founded Transparent, which is a donation platform. And this was very focused on donors for a large part of it. We're providing that transparency to donors because we found through our research that that's really what they want to see. But I'm here with sort of a different proposition, which is how we can provide AI tools to nonprofits to really upgrade your toolkit and create more efficiency within your nonprofit. I'm a huge advocate for AI, by the way. As Stan mentioned in my background, I've been working with it for super long, and I just continue to learn about it. So this is a little bit about my team. I won't go too into depth, obviously. I know you guys also have a lot of questions probably, so I'm going to try to be a bit brief. But yeah, we also brought on this great advisor who's been on a few nonprofit boards. And yeah, she's helping us with the nuances of nonprofits because obviously we're not experts. But yeah, I know you guys are. So yeah, I'm going to talk about a little more about AI, sort of the technical aspects, and then what this actually might mean for you, how you can utilize it as a nonprofit. Yeah. So this is a quick video.
You actually think AI is underhyped. Why is that?
And I'll tell you why. Most of you think of AI as, I'll just use the general term as ChatGPT. For most of you, ChatGPT was the moment where you said, oh my God, this thing writes and it makes mistakes, but it's so brilliantly verbal. Right? That was certainly my reaction. Most people that I knew did that.
It was visceral, yeah.
This was 2 years ago. Since then, the gains in what is called reinforcement learning, which is what AlphaGo helped invent and so forth, allow us to do planning. And a good example is look at OpenAI 03 or DeepSeek R1, and you can see how it goes forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. It's extraordinary. In my case, I bought a rocket company because it was interesting. And I know
as one does.
As one does. And it's an area that I'm not an expert in, and I want to be an expert. So I'm using deep research. And these systems are spending 15 minutes writing these deep papers. It's true for most of them. Do you have any idea how much computation 15 minutes of these supercomputers is? It's extraordinary. So you're seeing the arrival, the shift from language to language. Then you have language to sequence, which is how biology is done. Now you're doing essentially planning and strategy. The eventual state of this is the computers running all business processes, right? So you have an agent to do this, 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 and you concatenate them together and they speak language among each other. So when I look at this future, I want to be clear that the arrival of this intelligence, both at the AI level, the AGI, which is general intelligence, and then super intelligence, is the most important thing It's going to happen in about 500 years, maybe 1,000 years in human society, and it's happening in our lifetime. So don't screw it up.
Yeah, I definitely relate to his sentiment. I honestly, oh, sorry about that. I honestly think a lot of people are kind of misinformed about AI currently, right? We all kind of use the same tools, but these large businesses are really just building off a revolution with their models. And kind of the reason behind this is because they're able to train it on really specific information within that industry. So just to explain this like a little complicated picture, right now, like you might be using ChatGPT, which is a pre-trained model using generic data. What we're doing and what a lot of other industries are doing is using a fine-tuned model based on information from the actual nonprofit industry, from your nonprofit, from maybe your donors, and therefore making a much smarter model that you can utilize in a bunch of different tasks. Yeah, like the former CEO of Google mentioned, kind of that reinforcement learning was the recent revolution within AI. And it's allowing that agent to continue to learn and also perform tasks based on that. And yeah, this is kind of the new revolution that's just been happening recently. These large companies implementing agents into their workflow. So this standard LLM is like what you might see ChatGPT use and other big chatbots. But now we're able to give them a bunch of tools like your own data, like maybe donor data, maybe we're able to give it your calendar or things like that, other applications. And so we can take all of these and make the model much stronger and actually relevant. So we can answer questions like what makes a good nonprofit post based on research that's actually out there. So making these AI models stronger based on all of that. Yeah, so why this matters for you. And sort of, I'm going to explain kind of these weird flow charts that we have here. I love working with flow charts, but I know they can look a little complicated. These are kind of the tools that we're building, and we're actually working with a team from Microsoft Azure to kind of plan this all out. But the first thing we're kind of building is creating your content timeline. So we're feeding our agent a bunch of research about what makes a good nonprofit post. And we're able to use data like from other platforms where nonprofits have had really successful posts, really engaging posts, to try so that you don't have to kind of do that research by yourself. Then we're able to train this agent based on your campaign details. So this is an example, like maybe you're running a medical campaign, maybe you have a certain goal, and we're able to generate a timeline for you. And that way, that sort of planned content is much better than maybe the type of thing that you might think of just based off looking at a few types of posts that are out there already. And as Katie mentioned, like the current state is that the generation of the actual content is not very strong. So for those images and those texts, we're just kind of suggesting what you should do because we want to maintain that authenticity as a nonprofit. But I know it might be hard for you guys to, in general, just think of what should you post and when, and that's kind of what we're optimizing. Yeah, and this is a kind of another tool we have, which is super exciting. We're able to kind of use a bunch of inputs from your profile to create a deep research AI agent. So this AI agent kind of crawls through the web and is able to find the right grants that you're most likely to apply for and also you're most likely to receive. And so we're able to use your nonprofit's information along with some of your campaign information and kind of tune this model to find the right information so that you can kind of get this easy user interface where you can easily apply to everything and track all your grants. And so this is much smarter than you maybe looking up nonprofit grants for your specific cause because we're able to automate that entire process and really tailor it to your size of nonprofit as well. Yeah, and we're also building a CRM dashboard. So currently all the CRMs out there are kind of tailored to the general market. We're building a specific CRM for nonprofits so that we can leverage some of the things that are specific to nonprofits. Like, for example, donation amounts, donation dates, and maybe you have notes about someone, hey, this guy's birthday is on June 29th. And we're able to send thank you messages to those donors based on the information that you're putting there. So kind of what I said before, rather than using general AI data, we're able to tailor a specific model based on the data that already exists, and then kind of leverage that to perform tasks. And yeah, this is kind of a feature that's taking us way longer than we thought it would. But we're building off kind of the other AI features that we have. Being able to find the right donor for your nonprofit is a struggle that every nonprofit deals with. And we're also partnering with Microsoft Azure for this, but we're pretty much building a donor profile that would be ideal to donate to your nonprofit based on the cause, based on the research out there, the right amount of wealth that would contribute the most to your nonprofit, and other information like nationality, occupation. And so what we're able to do is find data online of donors that would be really likely to contribute to your cause. So yeah, like I covered, these are some of the things that we're streamlining and making much more intelligent with AI. So the content creation, the grant discovery, and intelligent donor management. And the donor discovery is kind of our really big tool that we're giving early access to some people for as we continue to build it. Those are some of our sources. And yeah, you can feel free to contact me. Like I said, I would love to chat more about this. Diana has also sent some of my information in the chat. Yeah, we would love to take any questions, get your feedback. Feel free.
Well, thank you. Okay, it's Q&A time. I know several people put some questions in the chat. Diana, I think Donna sent you a question.
Actually, Stan, I sent it to Katie.
Oh, you sent it to Katie, okay. Katie, you want to answer the question?
Sure. So the question is, how can we make sure that the AI response includes the knowledge, basically includes the knowledge of the political situation going on right now? And I think my answer is that there are settings in ChatGPT that allow it to access the internet to pull sources from different places. But if you want to put in like a specific issue, like the conflict going on at Harvard right now, then I would definitely include that in the prompt and ask it to incorporate that. And then if you do end up creating a learning system that you can train on your own data, that's the kind of thing that you can make sure you load in. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
You can always provide the context that it needs in your prompt.
Yeah. That's why those prompts are important.
I have a question. Since a lot of you are nonprofits or representing nonprofits, how does a nonprofit work with your organization, either Chris or Katie?
Yeah, so we kind of started building this for donors, but we're transitioning over to building all these AI tools for nonprofits because we really do see a big need for this. AI is revolutionizing every single other industry, but nobody's really working with nonprofits, and we really want to help with that. So yeah, Diana sent my contact link. Feel free to just like book a meeting or send me an email or text me, whatever. Yeah, I'm happy to meet.
Katie, how about you?
Oh yeah, same thing. I mean, I'm more on the communication side of things rather than donation, but Diana put the the 30-minute consult link in the chat. And so I would love to talk to any of you who
Terrific.
want to.
Terrific. Therese?
For the complete neophyte, could you please explain the difference in what you would recommend for your first foray into AI? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Claude? What's the difference? Is it the Microsoft one? What do you recommend for general use to get started?
It depends what kind of specific task are you doing? Is it for like writing a post or something?
Sure, whatever.
Yeah. So for a lot of like writing things, I would recommend ChatGPT. That's the strongest. For like math and coding things, I'd recommend Claude. And then there's also Perplexity, which is a research one, which is very helpful.
I was told that that's the fastest if you have a question about something.
Which one?
Perplexity, if you'd like a quick
Yeah,
about something, you just want a quick
It's-
answer, use
that's
that.
great. Yeah.
Do they all require, are they all free up to a certain point?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another question, how soon will there be a major concentration in AI? Like there was like computer science. Is that happening now, or, will AI be its own separate thing that people will go and study?
I think that's already happened.
It has.
Arian, if you're here, you can answer that because Arian's my co-founder is a computer science student. Maybe, yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Yeah, they've already started implementing like a bunch of AI classes within it, and it's like part of our curriculum now. Like I just took a class called Intro to AI, and like I have things like machine learning principles and deep learning principles coming up next semester.
There was one in the chat to Krish. This is such a great and helpful platform. What was your initial motivation for starting this?
Thank you. Yeah. I guess, I mean, I always wanted to like own my own business. And that's the same with Arian, but I think we just tried to look for what we could do that would have the most impact. I think implementing technology into helping a bunch of nonprofits that are doing great work is kind of my motivation behind this.
Diana?
Yeah, I have a question. I've been thinking about this a lot as AI kind of starts to take over, various job markets. And I know I'm thinking particularly maybe for young people who, just graduated college, for example, are not necessarily computer scientists, they don't work in AI, they don't do all of those things. So there's not necessarily like a guaranteed kind of position upcoming for them. I know for me, the way I started out was kind of in these like entry level kind of admin executive assistant roles, and then you kind of gain the soft skills, you move up. Like what, I don't know if you guys, I mean, maybe this is more of an economics question, but do you guys have any thoughts about like what would happen to that kind of gap that gets created when you don't necessarily have the skills to be like a manager, a more like operational person, but you're also not necessarily in these particular fields of AI or of computer sciencey type of things. If you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a big question. That's I think we're gonna get to a point where everybody has to have some knowledge of it. I mean, just like everybody has to have some knowledge of email and the internet and that kind of thing. So I know that when I was teaching like elementary school, that was a big thing, right? Like bringing that technology so that you do have those skills. And so I think that now elementary school teachers are thinking through how to incorporate AI and also how to teach it as a tool, right? Instead of as like do something that's going to do your math homework for you. But yeah, as far as like what the job market is going to look like, I wish I knew because I do think that's going to be something that we need to think about kind of on a societal level, right? Like preparing people to have those skills. Krish, what do you think as someone who's in school?
Yeah, I honestly think it is kind of an issue for the job market, and that's like why I was involved in education for AI as well. But yeah, I think there's definitely the good part is there's like definitely a bunch of free resources out there. Um, like this webinar, but also, a bunch of YouTube videos and things you can look up. Um, and yeah, if anyone wants like more resources, I'm sure I have a list somewhere and you can contact me for that. There's some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I like Mercy's. As a newbie user, what is the way I can get myself in trouble? Uh, well, like I said, making sure that you have knowledge of what you're writing so that you're not citing things that are wrong or that just don't exist. Um, that's one way you can get yourself in trouble. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but if you are posting images or videos that have AI components to them, social media platforms do require that you declare that. So there's like a little checkbox to check off like AI generated content. So that's one of the like regulations that you could get yourself into trouble with. Um, and I think just being honest that you are using it and not trying to pass off its work as your own. And be aware of the M dash because the M dash apparently is like a dead giveaway that ChatGPT wrote your content for you.
What's the M dash?
The really long dash that goes like as part of writing, like the it kind of like adds on something to your sentence. I'm pulling in my English education background now. Um, it's something that is used a lot in like poetry and like I guess academic writing, but it's like something that ChatGPT really loves to use. So it's just like one of those little uh yes, MS Word does automatically put in M dashes, but um if you're using them if you're using more than like a couple of dashes, it just kind of starts to show. And there's all sorts of like studies on different words that they love to use. For me in social media, they love to start with like meet so and so. And so if I use that all the time, then the algorithm's going to start to catch on that that's not original writing.
So I see, what do you recommend as tutorials to develop an understanding of tools? Max, I have some YouTube videos. I don't know the names of them, but I have them linked somewhere that I can send. If you recommend to subscribe to one, I would say, yeah, ChatGPT is definitely the best one out there right now. They're making just the most strides. I'm honestly subscribed to Claude. I just like it better. But yeah. And then practical guidelines for designing responses. So you want role, context, and prompt. So role, maybe you're saying for a nonprofit prompt, you are a nonprofit marketing leader. Here's the context of my nonprofit, and then ask the prompt. Okay, I think Bodon, you have a question? Yeah, you can unmute.
He's muted.
I
There we
asked it. That's what I did. I wrote it down. What practical guidelines are there for designing questions to get the best responses
Okay.
from these agents?
Did I answer your question?
Well, a little bit more. I could always use more.
Yeah.
In other words, what type of questions do you ask to what type of services, right? And I've actually been refining a question here, and I see that I get different answers. But I think you have to go through several steps to get the answer first, and then see
Yeah.
you're not getting the full answer, and then you have to write more and think.
A good thing to do also is like say you can ask me follow-up questions, and that helps you design a much better prompt.
We have time for a couple more questions. Rossi asked some in the chat. Chris and Katie, you see those?
From my perspective, I mean, we're we're working with only a few organizations, and so we really dedicate like a lot of time to those few organizations we work with. So yeah, we're building like a bunch of custom tailored solutions based on your data and what you want to use. Yeah. Katie, do you want to answer number one or any of them?
Next two questions have a lot to do with accountability. Who takes responsibility?
Responsibility in like if there's something.
Between the support provider and, and the client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for our case, like kind of the thing is we're not providing the actual like text for you to use, the actual images. We're providing more so research-based guidelines. And so there is no real negative impact that like potential that has.
Mm-hmm. And I work more with like individuals or small groups of people, so I'll be straight up like, this is, the tools that I'm using to help guide our process. I will also say that when it comes to the prompts, like refining the prompts to be clear about like the tone or the type of communication we want, definitely helps with that as well. But in general, what does accountability look like more generally when using AI systems that are increasingly more complex and autonomous? I think just being transparent is really the, my number one thing. What do you think, Krish?
Yeah,
Oh, you were, yeah.
sorry, I was
Sorry.
yeah, I would say be able to have that human touch in everything you do. So like if you're getting content suggestions, the content is still going to be human touched and authentic.
Yeah.
That's what really wins in marketing as well.
Perfect. Well, I think we're a minute before 8:00. Thank you, Krish and Katie, and thank all of you for attending tonight and the presentation. The next Toolbox webinar will be in the fall. Please watch your emails with all the details of all our upcoming programs at Class Act. If you have any ideas for topics for future webinars or would like to volunteer as a presenter or suggest a presenter, please email us at classacthr73@gmail.com. We would love to partner with other Class Acts and other alums. So thank you for coming. Have a nice evening. See you at the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.